Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could take sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving values contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to hate it. How they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
Number one life.
Paul Molitor was my mom's cousin.
It is what it is. Paul Molitor had a big, long hitting streak. Anyways,
Schmidt and Brett were the
we're
best.
live, Tom. Podcast episode 408, and we're sitting here talking about who's the greatest third baseman of all time. Anyways, okay, so let's go through some of the stories that we got here to cover. Kind of a few weird things going on. President Biden says during 2020, when Trump was president, he says inflation was what? 9% is what he claims, right? 9%, and he's been able to lower it. And he blasts Americans, claiming Americans have the money to spend, but they're not. And some people are pissed off about that. Barron Trump apparently wants to step into political arena as Florida delegate at Republican convention. Again, that's NBC News. Green moves to oust Speaker Johnson, but the audience starts booing. Newsweek, interesting title. Is the economy as bad as Americans think? What do you think? Do you think the economy is as bad as, it is today? That some people talk about. Red State is crowned best in U.S. for education. Wait till you see which state is crowned the best state for education. We'll share that with you here in a minute. Next, Stormy Daniels tells jury about the sexual tryst with Trump at hush money trial, and Adam and Vinny are excited to talk about this one. I mean, this is a very, very interesting stuff that was shared. Adams, this is not our Adams, Eric Adams says New York City is ready if Trump is jailed, is what he says. By the way, The Hill, 5 twists that could shake up the election before November. Ex-CNN reporter mocked over comments about MAGA, closet MAGA fans. Wait till you see what video resurfaced from years ago of hers canoeing through hardcore weather conditions. She'll show, Rob will show it to you. TikTok sues the U.S. government. Argues ban violates free speech. Can you imagine a company that owns TikTok in U.S. that's founded in a country that doesn't have freedom of speech, but telling them to sue the country that they're in for freedom of speech? How weird of a situation is that? These guys got some brass. You got to give them credit for. Kristi Noem calls off the Disastrous book tour, canceling hits on Fox News, CNN last minute. We'll talk about that because she keeps getting asked the same exact question that she doesn't want to answer. Joe Biden calls illegal aliens model citizens while promoting amnesty. And meanwhile, newly arrived illegal immigrant kidnaps 11-year-old girl and rapes her. We'll talk about that. Joe Reed suggests Putin purposely targeted Brittany Griner because she's a black queer celebrity. Can you imagine to go that far with that? Federal Reserve Chairman says migration boosts mortgage rates, but at the same time, the president says, Federal Reserve President says rate cuts may not come in 2024. Tom, that's pretty heavy right there for some people. Renters fear they'll never own a home, and Americans are raking up phantom debt in ways they never have before. I want to start off with this Federal Reserve story here. So Federal Reserve President says rate cuts may not come in 2024. Page 9. Minneapolis Federal Reserve President Neil Kashkari, Persian guy apparently, suggests interest rates may remain steady throughout 2024, stating, I would need to see multiple positive inflation readings, suggesting that this disinflation process is on track. Kashkari, anticipating a potential shift in labor market dynamics, indicates that a marked decrease in job creation could warrant an interest rate cut. He previously anticipated 2 rate cuts in 2024, but may revise this depending on upcoming data, despite recent inflation reduction slowing and signs of a possible reacceleration. Kashkari aligns with Fed Chair Jerome Powell in signaling reluctance towards further rate hikes. He emphasizes the need for evidence of declining inflation before considering rate cuts, asserting there is a limit when we say, okay, we need to do more. Tom, thoughts on this story?
Well, Neil Kashkari, who is saying cash expensive, with rates going to stay up, he's normally You like the way I did that?
Yeah.
He has normally been a moderate, level-headed voice. And so to hear him coming out saying, I'm not sure, what he's really saying here and in the spin room is, I'm not sure we were going to go with one rate cut because here's what happened yesterday, and here's why he said it. CPI leaked yesterday. CPI is not supposed to be out to the 15th, Consumer Price Index, and it looks like it's going to come out at 3.8, 3.9, which means inflation's edging closer to 4% and away from the 2%. So they saw that, and I feel like this is him floating to the markets to let them know, hey, pay attention to your mirrors. Statistics that are out there in CPI are not look like they're getting better, and we need to see the labor market move, so don't automatically think there's going to be cuts. Now, why is he saying this? Because if you absolutely say there's no cuts, the stock market's going to move 2% that day. That's what will happen right now because they're counting
2% if somebody says that.
If they came out today and said, okay, forget about September, because remember, everybody's angling saying, hey, one rate cut this year, probably at the mid-September meeting of the Fed. And they're pricing that in. In other words, the markets are looking for that because even a small cut in rates on billions and billions and billions of dollars of corporate debt is a lot of EBITDA and a lot of stock value that you get back. And so I think they're trying to soften the blow with consumer price data having leaked yesterday that we're going to see next week. It's probably 3.7, 3.8. So we're closer to 4 than we are to 2, which really, says that the economy is leveling and struggling to get to the better they want, and it's staying leveled at just okay.
So let's go a little further with this. So if this guy's saying that and Jerome is saying that, and then you have a story coming out with President Biden that again this goes with rate cuts. Mm-hmm. He claims that 9%. Biden claims inflation was 9% when he came into office, when it was actually 1.4%. This is a New York Post. Rob, I don't know if you have the video or not. Is there a video of him saying that? If you can play this video, watch this clip here, folks. Okay, go ahead and play this.
No president's had the run we've had in terms of creating jobs and bringing down inflation. It was 9% when I came to office. 9%.
He says that without even flinching. Now, so 9% when he came into office. Let me read the full story. President in a rare interview dismissed concerns over inflation potentially affecting his re-election, claiming Americans have ample funds to spend despite rising prices, stating they have the money to spend, right? That's the same story with New York Post. Despite acknowledgement of inflation reality and the impact on consumers' confidence, Biden attributed to the issue to greedy corporations. So he's blaming the corporations, defending his administration's handling of the economy amidst growing criticism and negative poll ratings. Biden's defiance against inflation worries contrast with public sentiment and polling data, with concerns mounting over economic management. So here's where I'm going with this, Tom. When did they change the way they measure inflation?
In what respect? What do you think?
Do you remember when they used to do it? They used to do it the way they measured inflation was every 2 years. Yeah. And then they changed it to measuring inflation every 12 months. I don't know if you remember that. Yes. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that?
This was like maybe 2 years ago.
Let me pull this up just to verify. Changing way you measure inflation from 24 months to 12 months. So
remember we covered it here on the pod a year ago.
So here's what I want to ask. Rob, can you show if we have that or not? Brandon, if you have that, if you can text that over. If you can text that over about, what do you call it? The fact that they change it from 24 months to 12 months. Okay. So here's the thing. Here's the thing with that. When they change it from 24 months to 12 months, what was the reasoning for it? What was the reasoning for it? The reasoning for it is some claim that going from 24 to 12 months actually showed the rates were lower. And people would say, if we were shown the 24-month rate, inflation is actually such and such. It was always higher than what they reported, right? And the U.S. government had a number that were reporting for inflation versus what it actually was. So what is the likelihood, and I know this is a crazy question I'm asking about him, what is the likelihood that Biden is saying 9% because maybe it was 9% on the way they measure that works against Trump, but saying it's lower now on the measurement that works in favor of Biden. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So it's kind of like saying, well, in this category, the way these guys calculate on the golf score of these three categories, that is the old way of doing it. Yes, it was 9.1%. But for us, I'm going to measure it on this one that's a little bit more friendly to me. We're only at 3.9%. Do you think that's what Biden did, or do you think he was just delusional lying?
First of all, if I think about the man, I think he was probably mistaken. However, you bring up a great point. It has been the great game of politics to find the number you like, the way you like to measure it, and find somebody, some think tank, some department of the government. Oh, the Treasury Department says this, but the Department of Agriculture said this. How can you be talking about crops if the agriculture number I like, and then, oh, well, the agriculture is going to favor themselves. I'm going with the Treasury Department. There's always been this game on find the number you like and then use that and beat up the other guy. But in this case, I think Biden is just plain mistaken. I think he's absolutely mistaken. Like maybe he looked at his own reports that showed that when we had peak inflation in 2022, it was 9, ladies and gentlemen. When you put the entire basket of goods and the total impact on the American consumer, it was 9. As a matter of fact, some say that it was even worse, but they say, well, we're not including energy, or we are including energy. Again, the parlor game here. In this case, I think Biden was just mistaken because, I mean, this is a guy that's reading teleprompters and getting mistaken the last 2 weeks, and he doesn't do well, just to be objective, not picking on him and not being bombastic. He hasn't done well in sort of analytical type interviews going back and forth, and I think in this case, he's just mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, he was very analytical in this interview, Rob, if you want to play it.
My theology professor at the Catholic school I went to was a guy named Riley, last name. And he had been drafted by the Green Bay Packers.
That's pretty analytical. I don't know what you're saying, Tom. When you disrespect the president, you better watch yourself.
I'll take it one step further. I watched that, and it reminds me that we're only one set of stairs from an even worse president. So,
yeah. What do you mean by that?
We're only one slippery set of stairs from an even worse president.
No question about it. But no, Adam, what do you think about it when you think about the inflation 9%? What he said. This is where was that? Where's that today?
Exactly. Let me just give you some numbers. You bring a great point about going back 2 years versus 1 year. So inflation peaked at 9% in June of 2022. Here's the chart right here. So if you go to June of 22, at that point, Biden had been president since what? January 20th, 2021. That's when he took office. So that is a year and 5 months, 6 months after he took office. It peaked. It hit 5% June of 2021. So 6 months into him taking office, boom, it went up. So the question is, how much lag time from all the money printing that was done under Trump and Biden? So here's what Biden could have done and should have done better, and actually what worked. So we all remember in March of 2020, Trump passed the CARES Act. How much money was it? $2.2 trillion of printing money. Mm-hmm. So whether that was necessary, whether that was a good decision, whether that was a bad decision, go ahead and argue it. Boom, CARES Act. So obviously Biden wins the election, he comes in, but he decides to do what? Print more money. So where does the inflation culprit lie on? Is it Trump printing the 2.2? And how much money, how much trillions of dollars did Biden print after he got elected? I would argue that he shouldn't have done anything. He printed way too much money. What was the stat? 40% of all the money supply in the history of America was printed since 2020. Inflation. But I will give him credit.
A 30-month period, yep.
I will give Biden credit because it peaked, inflation peaked in June of 22. A month after that, 2 months after that, August of 2022.
What was that number?
What did Biden pass? The Inflation Reduction Act. So it actually worked. So go back to that chart. So since he passed it, right then, inflation has come down. So is he guilty of doing the money printing in 2021? Yes. But is he also, I guess, deserve some accolades for the Inflation Reduction Act? The reality is this. Both sides printed a hell of money and took on more debt for the economy. But we'll see what happens with the economy at this point.
If I may, the CARES Act was passed and went into effect on March 27, 2020. Biden had been elected, and it was nearly 60 days later that they were debating whether to change it. And he could, as president, he had executive order power. He had the ability to go back with Congress. It was favorable to him. And he could have, there were things that could have happened later. And they talked about the extension, and they talked about where it went. The election wouldn't happen until November. You know, you have March to November. But one of the first things that he got up and did was extended it and actually printed more. Correct. So you can talk about that, but you can talk about the Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act, that's a misnomer. That's not what it did. Powell raised rates radically. Yeah. That's what got after inflation. So it wasn't like two presidents that had the two knobs that perfectly controlled everything, Adam. Yes, March 27 CARES started, but it was barely 1 year old when Biden and them were debating it, and they extended it. So they didn't go back and say, bad Trump, we have to do this. They actually extended it, and then Powell raised rates radically.
Powell deserves the credit. No doubt when it comes to inflation and interest rates.
I'm not saying Trump was innocent on this. I'm just saying let's make sure
both
we look at all
printed money is what I'm trying to say.
We look at all the knobs that were being turned.
Just to be clear, the Inflation Reduction Act actually didn't have much to do with inflation at all. For what I recall, it had to do with energy and chip production and the CHIPS Act. There was a lot of that was stuffed in.
You're contradicting yourself, though.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, if you're saying it's because of the Inflation Reductionary Act is the reason why it works.
Saying
inflation.
That's not what I said, Pat.
Let me say this. I heard you say the Inflation Reduction Act is the reason why he could take some credit. Because of that, it's how inflation came down. And then now you're saying the Inflation Reduction Act actually had nothing to do with inflation. It had to do with chips. So which one is it? Is it Powell? Is it the Inflation Reduction Act? Which one is it that caused inflation to lower and tamper?
It's both, is what I'm saying.
Oh, so you're saying this?
No one gets all or none of the blame.
So what part of Inflation Reductionary Act lowered inflation?
What part of the Inflation Act lowered the inflation?
Yes.
Go to the act. What was in there?
But I'm asking you. You're saying it lowered it.
Bro, you're asking me to find out what exactly happened in 2022. I'm showing you the numbers. If you look at the data.
This is not bro, I'm saying to you. You just said the Inflation Reductionary Act caused inflation to tamper and go lower. Then you're saying the Inflation Reductionary Act actually had nothing to do with inflation. It had to do with chips. So if it didn't have to do anything with inflation reduction, it had to do with right there. Look at this here. According to nonpartisan congressional joint committee, the law that will raise $738 billion, tax reform, prescription drug reform to lower prices, and authorize $891 total billion in spending, including $783 on energy and climate change, and 3 years of affordable care subsidies. These are all taxes. The law represents the largest investment into climate change in U.S. history, yet it's called Inflationary Reductionary Act. This thing had nothing to do with reducing inflation. So I know we want your angle you're taking is this is what reduced it. I think the part where you're always consistent, what do you always say? You always say the most powerful man, what do you call it about
America's Jerome Powell.
Jerome Powell, right? And he's got one of the toughest jobs.
Correct.
Why? Because both sides hate him, right? What are the chances if Trump gets elected that Powell gets fired?
100%. He already said that he named three candidates.
You're joining
already.
Vinny. I like it. Vinny, you're kind of converting this guy to start saying 100%. So
did you say 100%?
He said 100%.
Because I'm not going on just sheer piss and vinegar and emotion. Trump has literally said, here are the three
100%
candidates.
Community.
I don't recall Fed chairmen who are elected to office.
And by the way, we can
fired.
roll the tape. I didn't say the Inflation Reduction Act was the reason inflation came down. I said in June of 2022, inflation peaked. After Inflation Reduction Act, it went down. Show the chart, Rob. Do your job, buddy. But what I'll tell you is this.
Whoa.
There it is. Right after he
Rob,
passed.
get your act
what's that up at the top?
Rob,
9.1.
By the way,
put your pants
The ghost
on.
of Herman
Can you do me
Cain.
a favor, Rob? Can you do me a favor? Wait this.
Make a T-shirt. Do your job.
You don't like what Adam just said to Rob.
Yeah.
Rob just got 30 minutes the other day.
Robbie.
Connect with Rob and give him some love because Rob does a great job here and we love him. That's Connect QR code. Rob Garguglio on the podcast. But go ahead. You were saying.
That's not Vivek. He's not on the left.
Exactly.
Rob's on the right.
Rob is is the white guy with the beard. Not
Rob's
the
a white
brown
guy with the long
the shirt
Trump tie.
yesterday. I really like the shirt.
I'm simply making, one point, which I know you will agree with, PBD. Just because it was called the Inflation Reduction Act doesn't mean that was the only thing that was in the act.
But
we saw the $95 billion border bill that had nothing to do with the border.
We're saying the same thing.
Now we're saying
I'm trying to save your voice, bro. All I'm saying to you
this is me now, Pat.
This is.
Are you sure it's 100%?
Yes.
So what I'm saying to you is, you gave credit to Inflation Reductionary Act, and what I'm saying to you is it had nothing to do with inflation because you said it had nothing to do with inflation, and we looked it up. It was about climate change.
I don't want to fight with my boss, but just as much as
I didn't think we were fighting.
Tom, we know your boss is your wife. She allows you to leave the house for the podcast, and then you have to go back to the nursing home. We know.
She swings golf clubs. Insult her again. She's coming through the door.
But just like you're grilling me or Vinny for using 100, I'm also going to say you're saying the word nothing. The Inflation Reduction Act did have something to do with lowering inflation.
Well, it did. You know what?
It's not 100 or 0.
And I'm asking you what?
I'm saying a good percentage.
Can't say that.
Call it 20%, whatever percentage
but what
of the bill.
I'm saying you is how.
Let's read the 700-page bill on the podcast.
No, we just looked at it. Okay. It just said $783 billion went to energy and climate change. How did that?
But hang on, Pat. There's something in there that actually did reduce. Inflation is increase of prices, right?
Yeah.
And we know historically that the Affordable Care Act, 30 months after it was in place, resulted in a 20% year one increase in people's health insurance coverage. Remember that?
Yeah.
It did. And by the end of the second year, people's health insurance coverage, you ran a company, you saw it, increased 30% in price, right? So Obama's Affordable Care Act actually increased the cost of health insurance coverage for American workers getting it from their employers. But watch. Guess what it also did? The Inflation Reduction Act had 3 years of Affordable Care Act subsidies, which were meant to reduce the cost of health insurance that your previous boss, Obama, had increased with the Affordable Care Act. So I guess part of the Inflation Reduction Act did try to correct some inflation that was caused by his boss. By the way, I'm not making this up. Just read it.
I totally get it. But all I want to do is I want to make sure we look at this thing here to see how fantastic this Inflation Reductionary Act was, according to Adam. But
it was 10 years of pork.
Go back to that website. Okay, so go to the link that Brandon sent us. If you can go to the actual website, which is the BLS. Okay, so check this out, folks. Remember how I told you they changed the way they measured inflation? So here's an article from what website? Can you see the website? Okay, U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, okay? Commissioner's Corner, look at the date, January 10th, 2023. This is roughly, put it 16 months ago, 17 months ago, okay?
Read the first words.
Rob, go ahead. Every year on February 14th, there's a celebration of love. This February, BLS will celebrate an improvement on Consumer Price Index, which we hope you will love. Now, watch this. Look at the way they're explaining it. Beginning January 2023 index, scheduled for publication on February 14th, Valentine's Day, BLS, okay? Having nothing to do with BLM. BLM is something else. This is BLS. This is Bureau of Labor Statistics. Plans to update the spending weight in the calculation of the CPI every year instead of every 2 years, spending of every year instead of every 2 years. They changed the calculation of inflation to favor them at this time because it would have been worse being reported on what it really was than what they were showing. So it made the American people calmer, but the real inflation was like 30, 40, 50% higher, give or take, okay? And a part of this was because China's economy slowed down and Biden drained the strategic petroleum reserve. That's all kind of hand in hand together. But anyways, going back to asking the question about him, and he turns around and he says, Americans have the money to spend, they're not spending. This leads to the next story, and this is a question for you guys, if you're listening to this, okay? Is the economy as bad as Americans think? Is the economy as bad as Americans think? Despite experts asserting the U.S. economy's relative strength, with Colorado State University Stephen Weiler highlighting its complexity, stating, the combination of economic indicators is confusing even for economists. A Redfield and Wilton strategist poll reveals 50% of Americans believing the economy is headed in the wrong direction, with 42% reporting a worsened financial situation in the past year. Folks, 50% are saying we're going the wrong direction. 42% are saying it's worse this year than it was last year. That's pretty scary right there, okay? And this is Newsweek. This ain't Fox News. This is not Breitbart. This is Newsweek talking. John Van Reenen from the London School of Economics links the pessimism to lingering inflation effects post-pandemic, emphasizing prices are coming down, but the increase is still fresh in people's memories. Notably, 59% of respondents in the same poll deemed the economy the most critical issue, signaling the significance in the upcoming election. Economically, while inflation persists, March saw a stronger than expected 3.5% rise, contributing to public unease. However, the labor market remains resilient, with March witnessing 303,000 job increase and unemployment dipping to 3.8%. So the question becomes, Tom, when you hear something like this, is the economy as bad as Americans think? What matters more? Showing data to make an argument and spin to say the economy is better than you guys think, or what the consumer actually feels?
Well, this is interesting. Harris poll ran a poll. They ran a poll around something we'll talk about later, buy now, pay later. But there were some things that came out as a result of that polling. When the Americans are saying, there was a follow-up question, Vinny, what's the number one thing to you in the economy? Well, in the election, well, I got immigration and the economy. Why do you say economy? Because the economy's bad. Well, why do you say it's bad? Because I can't afford things and I'm pinched. That is what the consumer means. When the consumer says the economy, Pat, what they're saying, the polling data show, they're saying my economy, my wallet, my household. That's what they're saying. And the three things that they point to is that there's been a cumulative effect of inflation, but they don't say it that way. They say, I go to the grocery store and I look back 3 years and it's 20% more. That hasn't gone down. Maybe eggs, milk, oil, gas, energy, some commodities have come down, thank goodness. They get some relief. But the overall basket of goods is 20% up since March of 2020 to January 2024. If you ran the common inflation calculators, 20%. Number one. Number two, wage growth is behind inflation. Number three, the labor stats that are touted in the headlines aren't matching what people are feeling, because full-time jobs are going away and more people than ever have second jobs, including cash-only side hustles or 1099 side hustles that are not showing up in job reports. So Americans are saying the economy's bad. They're saying my economy's bad, my wallet.
Yep. Whereas, and that's what matters, by the way.
That's right. Whereas the mainstream media gets its talking points from the White House. Tell them inflation is coming down. Tell them we blew out the jobs report. Tell them the stock market's up. And by the way, when asked, they all do say, thank goodness my IRA 401k, Pat. The average American gives it credit. The last time I checked, my IRA 401k were okay. So if they have a 401k with work or an IRA with the common indexes and stuff, they've given credit for that, saying, well, thank God the market didn't crash. I saw my retirement balance. But my economy and my household is worse. That's what they mean.
Adam.
Well, look, you kind of did what I typically do, which is more of a personal finance perspective. I'm going to do what you typically do and give more of a macro perspective. I'll say this. Bidenomics has not helped the American people. Bidenomics was supposed to be a bottom-up, from the middle out economic stimulus package to help the economy. Hasn't really done much. You know, Trump was more of a top-down, trickle-down economics, Reagan-esque type of tax cut, which you've talked about, which you parlayed into raises to people in your company, which has worked well. But what's my point? I actually just checked the numbers. We talked about 40% of all money printing was done since 2020. But I actually need to update my stats, because it's actually closer to 80%. I think it's close to like almost $19 trillion is circulating in the economy. What's my point? Biden hasn't done shit to help the American people.
Watch your language.
Whoa. Okay, guys.
Whoa.
Sorry.
It's a little too much, but.
Sorry, guys.
I'm going to clip that and make it my favorite ringtone.
There it is. But let's be like, you know, we're so quick to be binary here and one side good, one side bad.
Yeah.
If he did this, then he's the good. He's good. He's evil. But the reality is, if you look for the gray, the truth is typically somewhere in the middle of sometimes funny and serious.
If you're going to put a plug in for Truth Social, just say it.
There it is.
Get to the point already.
Here it is.
Like we're.
Well, I know that you guys don't like talking bad about Trump, But here's the deal.
Watch it.
Here's the deal. There's a lot of good things you could say about Trump, immigration, the border, anti-wokeness. What I'll tell you straight up is Trump is no fiscal conservative. He printed as much money as any president ever until Biden showed up. He's like, hold my beer, I'm going to print more. So everything that we're feeling now is not just a Bidenomics thing. Some of the blame must go to Trump. How comfortable are you the fact that Trump printed $2.2 trillion
See, the difference here
in
is
2020?
when you say stuff like that,
Yep.
and you know, in the middle of the podcast, you know, friends text and say, hey, say this and say that and say this and say that. And it's like the cruise, what do you call it? Like if you work for Fox or CNN, someone's telling in your ear,
Producer.
tell him this,
The producer.
tell him that. And we don't have that, right? Because we don't have that here, but we have friends that text, right?
Yeah.
So you should tell him this, you should tell him this.
Yeah.
Difference is, I don't want to print any money, whether your name is Trump or Biden, until we start paying off some of our money. I'm about firing people that don't need a government job, that should go make it in the free market, which is super hard. The free market is challenging. We have probably 50% of government employees right now that are working for different agencies that we can fire and tell them, go work for a regular job. Not talking military. I'm not talking certain, cops that we need more security for. And the last thing we need to do is firing cops. We need to actually ask cops to please keep your job and recruit more cops to keep their jobs. Every time I see a cop that's out there, I used to only do it with military servicemen. Now if I see a cop, I stop and I say, do you realize how important your job is? I want to say thank you to you because your job matters. Thank you for putting your life on the line. I'm grateful for you. They need to hear it as well, not just them. But we can fire 50% of them. We'd figure out a way to make it work. Sometimes, Adam, when you run in a company, and we've had to make some tough decisions as the CEO of multiple companies that I've run. Sometimes I need to make a tough decision, and the tough decision sucks. It's never fun when you're making a tough decision. It's just not. And you got to fire somebody. And when you have to fire somebody, that feeling when you fire somebody, in the back of your mind, you as a CEO process it from a few different places. You probably like this person because you've spent some time with them. 2, you're probably, care about their career and you want to make sure they have something to do. And then 3, you also know there's going to be backfiring because people are going to talk and defamation and behind closed doors and spinning of the stories. And really as a CEO, you can't tell the whole story. You especially can't because everyone's watching to see what you do after the way you fire somebody because they're worried about how you're going to fire them one day and they need to be able to feel protected there, right?
Am I being fired?
No, not at all. Dude, if we would have fired you, it would have been 4 years ago, 3 years ago when everybody started saying
Sorry,
what they're
guys.
saying.
I'm still here.
But the point is this. Yeah. The point is the government agencies don't believe they can run without the 50% of the people that they have. I'm convinced they can fire half of the people that are working for these government agencies. And within 3, 6, 12 months, everybody would move on. They'd have to give jobs. They'd be forced to realize the way your attitude is matters because government employees sometimes don't have the best attitude. The way you treat people matters. The way you service people matters. All that stuff matters. So, yeah, I am fully with you on spending money left, right, center, no matter what you are. I want to stop spending money. Let's get our finances in order, okay? When you're running a company and your marketing department or somebody else comes in and says, hey, let's put $3 million into this. Hey, let's put $2 million into this. I said, until you can tell me how we can sell those items, like even a basic thing that we have upstairs, we need $55,000 worth of new computers, and we can sell the other computers for $27,000. Really? Yeah. Place the order the day you get $27,000 of selling those computers.
Right.
Oh, but that could take 6 weeks. I don't give a shit. Right. You sell the computers, you can buy the computers. But you know how the government rolls? Forget about selling it, buy it anyways. And who's paying for that? We're paying for that. That way of spending money, there is no accountability in there, and you're right. And I don't think it's a left thing. I think it's a left, right, center thing.
I fully agree. And it's because when you're not the one that's actually paying for it, when Congress is
We're paying for
sure,
it. Yeah.
$1 trillion
That's
here,
right.
$1 trillion here,
Yeah.
raise the taxes, there's no accountability.
That's right.
Both sides. This is why they call it the uniparty.
No, I agree. Okay, let's go to the next story. I mean, Vinny, I know you're dying to say something here, but for this one, I just ran out of time. I ran out of time. If you're not offended, I'm moving.
Vincent.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%, 100%.
Let me go to this next one. This next one, you may actually have an opinion on. You ready?
Thank you.
Okay, Federal Reserve Chairman. No. Wait for it.
I'm tired of him.
Wait for it.
I'm just tired of him.
Wait for it. Listen to what he said.
Vincent.
You ready for
Listen.
this? Seriously. Says migration boosts mortgage rates.
Yeah.
It's
true.
So people that go
true,
so
baby.
let me read this to you.
Yeah.
Let me read this to you. This is an actual. So let's go through this, Rob. While the long run effect of increased immigration on inflation is unclear, immigrants nonetheless need a place to live, and their arrival in the U.S. has likely also increased demand for housing. What percentage of illegal immigrants coming here you think are coming here with $300,000 to put a down payment on a house?
Hey, I go to buy a house today.
I want you to think about this, okay? What percentage of illegal immigrants are coming here with $100,000 plus cash?
Less than 1%.
Cash.
Less. Well, I mean, unless they're working with the cartels, and the cartels are doing.
What do you
shit.
think? 1%. What do you think? Can you, Rob? Can you even Google this? I'm actually curious. What is the average net worth of an illegal immigrant that comes across the border? Okay.
I'm going to say basically $100 in their pocket, and they had to give the rest to a coyote.
Bucks or
Guess
pesos?
what? That's
or
what I
pesos.
relate to. We came here with nothing.
And the people that do have the money will go find a way to actually pay for their citizenship. There's different
You
avenues.
come here
for that.
legally. That's right.
Exactly.
By the
Hey,
way,
I've got 500 grand. Invest in a business. Boom.
Do you know I was in Panama?
Yeah.
And I'm in Panama. We're playing poker at, I don't know where we are. We're at Hard Rock in Panama. And I'm playing, there's just all these guys. I'm like, so what do you do? I'm from Dallas. No shit. Yeah, what do you do? I'm from Chicago. What do you do? I'm a senator. You're a senator. Yeah. In where? In Panama. Get out of here. Yes. So I'm like, teach me why Panama's unemployment is 2%. At the time, it was 2%. Why are so many people coming to Panama? He says, you know, you can buy your citizenship here with $300,000. I said, what do you mean? He says, if you put $300,000 in Panama in a business or a property, you automatically get your citizenship. No way. Yeah. What does that mean? People who go to Panama go with money. People who go to Dubai with money. People who go to Singapore with money. Illegal immigrants that come to America don't come to America with money, or else that have better choices, okay, better options in their lives. And this guy's saying that they're going to fix and help with the increased demand for housing. Says Neil Kashkari, same guy, by the way. He's not Persian. He's Indian. He's from Ohio, I believe. President of Federal Reserve Bank, Minneapolis, said on May 7, in turn, he said mortgage rates are nudged upwards with higher interest rates, saying perhaps a neutral interest rate for the housing market is higher than before the pandemic. Kashkari is a member of the Federal Reserve, which is now raising interest rates due to reduce unpopular inflation caused by the federal government's deficit spending. Tom.
So this is Neil, who's normally pretty balanced, as I said. Kashkari, or cash expensive, as I like to say, because he's usually a rate increase guy. What he's talking about here, if I had to read between the lines here a little bit, I'm not an apologist for him. I don't know this guy. But I think what he's saying is these people are going to need apartments, and so developers are going to need loans to go get the apartments. And right now we've got limited demand, and you would imagine that banks would be decreasing the rate a little bit because there's fewer people looking for a construction loan. You know what I mean, Pat?
Yep.
And if fewer people are looking for a loan, if you're looking for a loan, say, hey, I'm going to build, 50 apartments in this one building in Minneapolis, and you go to Vinny Bank and Tom Bank, if we don't have a lot of applications on our desk, I'm more likely to give you maybe a quarter point better so I could win the business from Vinny. And if there's 10 of you in here, then I'm not going to lower the rate at all because there's plenty of demand for the money I'm trying to loan. So I would think it would be a little upside down. So I actually disagreed with Kashkari on this, that if you've got limited number of homes being built or limited number of apartments being built, and that's what I'm going to assume here, this is multifamily housing that's being built, then I don't think that's going to keep the rates up. I think that would, if anything, cause a developer to be able to get a little tiny bit better deal. Now, it can't be a screaming good deal because the Fed rate is in there and the spread right now is 1.7. So it's going to be hard for him to get a deal better than about 7%, 7.25% right now. So I think he was trying to say something there and it came out like completely wrong. And it sounds, the logic was a little upside down.
But when you talk about bringing something, and this is really quick, about anybody coming over the border bringing money, why would you need to? If you just go to New York, you get a prepaid credit card that gets refilled every month,
and a phone,
and you get a free cell phone. They're kicking out veterans out of their dwellings to make room for illegals. They're taking over schools, and now because there's that new trend, you could just squat in a house, and it's your house. Why would you want to come with $1? I'd come in here. You know that story when parents are always like, we came to this country with $2 in my pocket. Everybody always has that story. My family came here. They had no pockets.
Yep.
They were just naked. They swam here. But yeah, what were you going to say?
Well, shout out to your family. I'd love to see.
They love it. They came here naked, and that's how they.
Who does this affect the most? Socioeconomically poor people are getting screwed by the immigrants.
Weird.
Like the rich people aren't like, oh my God, they're taking my jobs. No, I'm good. We're good. Pat's good. Pat's not losing his job to Hector that just showed up. Or they're coming from China, or they're coming from Syria, or they're coming from El Salvador, or they're coming from every country around the world, because it's not just South America. We've highlighted that. But what happens is this is simply supply and demand. How many illegals or migrants, or as the Biden administration calls them, newcomers, hey y'all, come on in, have come in since the Biden administration? 5 million? 10 million? What's the number?
Of just completely illegal?
How many people? Yeah, illegal.
Well,
the number that's being reported is roughly 8.5, 8.8 million. Some are saying it's 15 million. But let's just say 8 to 15 million.
So let's just do basic economics here. What are the two principles of economics? Supply and demand. Is there more supply in America now, meaning humans? There's apparently 8 to 10 million more. Now, these people we just established don't have money.
If you could.
Sure.
Keep going. On me, not on you.
Even if it's 5 million, whatever it is, there's more people in America
Yes.
since this open border, ridiculous Biden policy. Cool. Follow me now. Those people, we've just established that maybe 1% of them, if that, are showing up with hundreds of thousands of dollars. Those people are buying businesses. There's a protocol for that. We know that. But 99% of them are basically have no money, have no wages, and they need to work, and they're getting stimmy checks or handouts or debit cards. They need places to live, free apartments, free hotels. They're knocking on people's doors. Yo, I'm taking over now. How many times have we highlighted the squatting situation in New York? So it's affecting the poorer people. Socioeconomically, they're losing jobs to these people. They're losing money to these people. They're losing opportunities to these people. That's why they're pissed. Did you see what just happened in Chicago? You see Biden was just in Chicago, and they had 2 black women, one with a MAGA hat on, who basically was like, yo, Chicago's going red now. We can't take this anymore. They're prioritizing immigrants over citizens. And it's not even a black thing or a Latin thing or a white thing. It's a socioeconomic thing. They're taking jobs and opportunities and housing, in this specific case, from the disadvantaged, the disenfranchised.
Was this also they lost
people.
their school auditorium and their gymnasium, so their kids lost school programs?
That's part of the story.
They put
Correct.
a bunch of cots in there, and these women were upset because their own kids were getting less services at their school because they turned the gym into an apartment.
Yeah.
Correct. At the end of the day, you're like, what the hell are we doing here? They're prioritizing immigrants or migrants or illegal aliens, which apparently is illegal to say, over actual citizens of America. Yeah. That's why people are upset.
So let me ask you, Rob, if you can go to what I just sent you. Washington Examiner says the number is 10 million. Okay, illegal border crossing, total over 10 million since Biden inauguration. If you can just pull that up and show this before Adam gets upset at you. So illegal border crosses totals over 10 million since Biden inauguration. Go a little low, Rob, if you could. Zoom in a little bit. On one of the slides, it shows actually the numbers. Go lower, go a little lower. Where's it? No, not too much. You went too much. You just all of a sudden went all the way down. Yeah. So like I said, 2.7 million, 3.2 million by each year. Go a little higher. I think that's the one right there. Right there. Official U.S. Customs and Border Protection data includes 3.2 million apprehensions in 2023, 2.766 in 2022, 1.956 in 2021, and 471 in 2020. This guy went from 471 to 1.95 to 2.766 to 3.2 million. Record-breaking numbers, right? Mm-hmm. And they can sit there and try to do the spin job as much as they want. This is catastrophic, absolutely catastrophic. The challenge then is going to be on how are you going to deport all these guys. Guy sends me a quick question on my neck saying, here's what I think the way to do it, and all these different trucks, and and here's how many here's how much the cost is going to be. Here's how much. This is going to be a very, very complicated project to get these guys. So you're not going to just go to them and say, okay, you got to leave. Okay, I will leave. You have to arrest, it's going to be the hardest thing to do for the next president to deport these guys.
And guess what? If it's Trump, It can't happen because the first person that they grab, PBD, especially if it's a young kid, they're going to take a photo of it and they're going to just blast Trump, just like they did with that fake video with that guy and the horse, and they're whipping them. I'm sorry, this is what you guys wanted. You wanted this open border. Now it's, by the way, no turning back.
Yeah.
Speaking of Manek, the guy in Manek told me, he goes, Vinny, they can't do that. I forgot his name, and I apologize. He said, now what you have to do, the mission of the Republicans is, how do you make those people that are going to be stuck here, 18 million, 8 million, whatever, how are you going to make them vote Republican? What's going to be your pitch to change them? Like, hey, listen, we know that this guy lets you come in, but we're going to do X, Y, and Z that's going to make your life better. Yeah. That's what you're going to have to do.
So obviously, this is going to be, and by the way, you know what the difference is?
Huh?
What's the great thing when the next thing's going to be a one-term president? You're on your second term. What's the great thing? How do you treat criticism on your second term?
You don't give a shit.
You don't worry about it.
You're leaving.
There's no re-election. There's no...
Yeah.
You've got a midterm election for Congress, but you don't have to worry about the rest. You can do what you think is right.
Yeah. On your second term, you don't really care what's going to happen. So even if he has to do that, he's not going to be coming from a place of, what's going to happen to me. Anyways, okay, let's go to the next story here. Okay. All right. So next story we have, let me see which one I want to go to. Do we want to go to Stormy Daniels? Let's go to Stormy Daniels. So Stormy Daniels tells jury about sexual tryst with Trump at hush money trial. Let's kind of go through this here. Stormy Daniels provided explicit testimony about her alleged sexual encounter with Donald Trump during a celebrity golf tournament, vividly describing finding him in silk pajamas and feeling disoriented upon seeing him. Mr. Trump had come into the bedroom and was on the bed basically between myself and the exit. Daniels recounted discomfort and concerns about the protection during the encounter, stating, I was trying to think about anything other than what was happening there. Despite feeling blackout, stop it.
Here she goes.
She emphasized that Trump did not threaten to force her. Throughout her testimony, Daniels detailed her motivation for coming forward and subsequent hush money payment she received to remain silent, maintaining that her primary concern was fear and not financial gain. My motivation wasn't money. It was to get the story out. Okay, so here's the question. When there are stories of men that take advantage of girls, okay? But here's the thing. Were you forced into the hotel room? No. Did you choose to go into the hotel room? Yes.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. If you're a woman going into a hotel room with a married man or a man, period, and the door closes, what do you think you're going into the hotel room for? To play Sudoku? What do you want? Hey, I just want to play backgammon with you. Can we do that? No, let's play chess. You be the queen, I be the king. Go. Your first move.
Wow, how traditional.
Right. What do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
If you're going in there, you're not going to say, I went in there and when you took out the Sudoku box, I passed out. I blacked out. Come on, bro. I mean, this is just some of the stuff. So what's your thoughts with the story here, Vinny?
No, I just, listen, I read, Tom's making me laugh just by looking at his face, because I read into this whole story. Yeah. And apparently at one point she said, my clothes and shoes were off. I think I still had my bra on, and we were in the missionary position. And the lady asked, or the lawyer asked, was he wearing a condom? No. Was it brief? Yes. And guess what? Good for you, Donald Trump. Time is money. You don't become a billionaire by laying in bed with a porn star. You got to get in. Point. You got to get out. You got to close the deal and go make that money. You think he's going to sit there and lay around in a hotel room? No, he has a building to build. He has a business to freaking, an empire. Get out of there. And to all the people that are brief, I salute you.
By the way,
same boat.
According
Rob's that guy.
Okay. According to your argument,
yes,
the best people in bed are those who get paid minimum wage.
Yeah. Because they don't have shit to do after. They're just laying in bed like that story.
Hey, who's the best guy you ever with? This freaking Uber driver I met, this McDonald's drive-through guy was. So, Tom, your thoughts on the story? What do you think about the story?
I just didn't. It's just salacious testimony that's going back and forth, and I didn't care to read it. I mean, this whole, prosecution and judicial activism, and I feel like MAGA should stand for, make attorney generals admirable. Maybe we need legal reform in the country.
Quote that, Rob.
Yeah.
Adam, what are your thoughts on this? You seem like
That's all you want to go here? Well, the big question is, whatever happened here Is it a jailable offense?
Nope.
So let's go down the rabbit hole because you guys seem to
love rabbit holes.
totally be cool with him banging a porn star. Well, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, Vinny.
This was 10 years before his presidency. I don't give a shit who he bangs. Who cares?
I don't care what he does now.
Yeah,
Literally.
Well, good for him.
So I'm talking about.
Where were you when I was president?
Bill, wait a minute.
I could say real weird shit right now.
Yeah.
I actually think that the Oval Office, let anybody in there under the desk do what they got to do. Let's keep the president happy and on the track.
Yeah.
Okay, all good.
Go ahead.
But let's
Oval Orifice.
Let's get some facts here.
Yeah.
Is she a porn star / prostitute / sex worker? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
By her own admission.
Not trick
By her own
questions.
admission, she's a porn actress. I wouldn't say star. It's not like, she's in the Hall of Fame.
And I think she even used the word career. Like
Vinny follows all the Hall of Famers.
Yeah,
You know,
and
he
she's not Jenna Jameson.
Pull up the picture.
she was a career sex
Defensive
worker.
Player of the
Pull
Year.
up a picture of Stormy and did they actually meet? Well,
Yeah,
yes.
of course. Look how happy he
Okay.
was.
Did she go back to his hotel room?
Yeah, exactly. Not the place to Dooku, like he
Yes.
said. Yeah.
No.
You never
He
know.
knew what he was doing when she walked in the room.
Okay.
Did they actually have sex?
I don't know.
Well, according to testimony,
Okay.
according to her,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Did he say yes or no? Because guess what? This is just his word over
I
her
would
word.
never.
I don't know. Go ahead. She looks all right there.
According to testimony, she described it as brief.
Yes.
And Trump told her, quote unquote, "It was great. Let's get together again, honey bunch." That's the quote.
He had a meeting
she
to go
said,
to.
Dude, I don't care.
I know, I love-
Get in, get out.
Yeah, go.
That's why you're paying for the porn star.
Yeah, get out.
I get it. Of all the things I'm mad about with Donald Trump,
You actually like this one.
I don't.
Yeah.
Go for it, buddy. Don't care. Zero. That is not the reason I'm voting or not voting
Go ahead.
for Donald Trump. She said he didn't use a condom and expressed no concern about Melania finding out. Should we talk about Melania finding out in a second? Yes, we will. So, did she actually have sex with Donald Trump? Likely, yes.
Likely, I like-
Because if they didn't, this would be the biggest sham of all time. Okay? Then the question is, did he actually pay the $130,000 hush money via Michael Cohen? That's the whole falsifying record.
He's a liar.
That remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Now, what I will stand fast by is all this nonsense a jailable offense? Hell no. And we can talk about what Eric and Adam said about New York being ready. But here's my question for you. Because obviously, like I'm directing this towards Vinny. You're voting for Trump. I'm more than likely voting for Trump too.
If I could do it twice,
maybe because of this situation,
I would do it. I
to be
would
honest with
go
you.
vote, become trans, and go vote as a woman.
Well, there are people that vote twice. They're called.
they're
dead
called
people.
Democrats.
Exactly.
My dad voted twice.
But here's
in
my
Atlanta, and
question.
he'd been dead for 10 years.
This is also from 2006. Does anybody even give a shit about this?
No.
And this is why it's so petty and so ridiculous. But what year did he marry Melania?
I don't know. You're going to tell us now.
2005. Okay. What year was Barron born?
I don't know.
2006. So he married Melania. Barron was born. She was pregnant and had Barron. 2 months later, he's in a hotel room with Stormy.
Allegedly.
Do I care? Is that the reason I'm not voting for him? Not at all. But I'm letting you know there's women out there, namely Melania, probably ain't happy about this, that are going to hear this and they're emotional. How could you cheat? Oh my God. Women's rights, abortion. Oh my God. And that's the reason they can't vote for Trump, amongst other things. So does a dude like me care about this? Not in the least. But it's not about us. There's a lot of women out there, emotional women, Democrats, independents even, or conservative Republicans that can't see past things like this. And that's the problem.
Because you just said the math. What was it? 130. I'm trying to do the math like you guys.
130 grand.
$130,000. It was brief. So what do you want to say? Minute. She made $130,000.
A minute.
Could you imagine
That's all he lasts. Come on,
$130,000?
Tom.
I mean, if it's brief,
Yeah.
that's $130,000. You got to give her credit for that. Like, how much is that an hour?
That's
What's
like
that? What is it?
$7 million.
If he, $7
$7
million, if he
million
stayed there the
an
whole
hour.
time.
So
if it's by the minute, she's doing well. By the way,
That's
and what-
slightly above
and Tom-
market for the horizontal bob.
And Rob, didn't she get in trouble? By the way, this is hush money. The hush money obviously didn't hush shit. This is supposed to be hushed. Rob, can you find out what happened? She had to pay him. These are always feel-good stories. She had to pay him $120,000 in legal fees. So that 1 minute of let's get down only cost him $10,000 at the end of the day.
You did bring up a good point.
Thank you.
That the two words associated with this case are hush and gag order.
Yeah.
Hush and gag.
Yeah.
By the way, if she had the opportunity to do this again, do you think she would do it again? A million times over.
1,000%.
It's the only reason I'm mentioning her name. Donald Trump obviously probably feels bad about this. That something salacious like this, like all rich, ridiculous businessmen traveling like this, might have opportunities to do. But under this circumstance, I wish that she did shut her mouth
if
and hush it up.
Republicans really want to win, I think every single Republican out there that's going to vote for Trump, God will vote for Trump, and then literally we just all self-identify as somebody else and we vote again. Can that work, Tom? I'm being dead serious. I'm somebody different. Princess?
You know, here's what I think. Whoa.
I'm sorry, I stole your word.
Easy does it.
I'm an angry patriot. Go.
Come out of my cave here and get upset. I think that the whole hypocrisy around this is that people don't understand that if you take a look at everybody in that courtroom, the lawyers, the judge, everybody in there, I'd like to know how many people in that courtroom have ever had an employee sign an NDA and leave because of a harassment or implied harassment or even an affair. It happens every day in corporate America. VP of marketing messes around somebody over here, they sign an NDA, they get some money, and they leave. And this happens all the time. Is it right? No. Are marriages impacted? Yes. Is it embarrassing to companies? Sure. But this happens a lot. And the hypocrisy of Washington and New York and the Attorney General's office and the mayor's office is that we're ready for you at Rikers Island. Really? Really? Yeah. You want to go to the mayor's office and all the people that have been in there and the NDAs? You know, I'm sorry to say it, but there was a few NDAs and some payments that came out of Andrew Cuomo's office. I'm sorry. That's public record. This happens. And to make one guy an example and you're trying to do this is an election year stunt.
So this is what, Rob? This is Eric Adams talking about the jail in New York? Is that what this is? Go ahead and play this clip. Island. Watch this. Go ahead.
Criminals.
Amazing commissioner. She is prepared for whatever comes on Rikers Island. I'm pretty sure she would be prepared to manage and deal with the situation. As you see what's happening with Harvey Weinstein. We have to adjust, you know, in this business, particularly around law enforcement, we have to adjust whatever comes our way. But, you know, we don't want to deal with a hypothetical, but they're professionals. They'll be ready.
They'll be ready for what? What's he saying? They'll be ready for Trump?
For Trump, if he ends up being convicted, to go to Rikers Island. Think about what we're saying here.
But think about what he just said. I mean, finish your point, and then I want to make a point on top of that with the tone of...
No, Tom, you were so polite to interject, so just make your point, and I'll make mine.
Well, I'll just
Thank you for interjecting to tell me to finish my point.
Well, I'm just...
Tom, you're killing it. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just exercising boss's privilege. So the... Basically, Eric Adams had a very balanced answer there, and I'm not a I'm not a fanboy, but he was giving a balanced answer, saying we're ready for whatever what may. And if the judge wants to, say contempt and send him to Rikers, we'll be ready at Rikers Island for a high-profile person walking in there. That's what he was saying. He wasn't saying bad Trump, I hope he gets in here. He said they're professionals in the organization. We'll be ready. I think that's all Eric Adams said.
Okay, I can't believe that you're not dismantling Eric Adams for this.
I'll dismantle the two women on either side of him that are smirking.
Exactly. Look at the women, and I'm just going to say it, two black women who are smiling, talking about Donald Trump going to jail. Look, I get a lot of heat for not being a Trump sycophant, but I will defend the law. And here's a guy who's on trial for, I think, a sham, ridiculous Stormy Daniels situation. These women, whether they're smiling about this, have joy, they're talking about taking Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, the leading candidate for president in 2024, to Rikers Island, where the criminals, what Alcatraz in San Francisco has Alcatraz, New York has Rikers. This is so absurd to me. By the way, he's getting fined $1,000 a day for violating a gag order. This is where it becomes a shame. Eric Adams should have the balls to say, I'm making no comment about the president's trial, and I'm certainly not going to make metaphors or accusations or allusions of Rikers Island. It's ridiculous to me. So here's the biggest question here. How the hell is Donald Trump going to get a fair trial by his peers in New York City? Number one, tell me one person who doesn't have a little bit of emotion towards Donald Trump. Hey, can you be completely fair and unbiased about Donald Trump?
No.
Yes, never heard of him. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, gonna get.
Sorry about
That's a
that.
future statement. It's in process, and he's not getting.
Correct.
Let's talk president.
And then what's going to happen? Let's go down the rabbit hole because they're talking about Trump going to Rikers Island, going to jail. What's actually going to happen if Trump goes to jail? What are the Trump loyalists going to do, or even like-minded people going to do? January 6th will look like a walk in the park on that day.
Well, forget about that. National polls have shown whenever they've taken these strong things that it moves about 0.5 to 0.6 of 1%. Every time they take these big steps and make big actions, national polls move toward Trump.
Guaranteed him winning is if he goes to jail. If he goes to jail,
Yes.
it's done. That picture right there,
The mugshot.
it's done. And on top of that, the amount of stories, books, movies, the way it's going to be told 20 years from now, 10 years from now, 30 years, when he's no longer here, it's going to be, we'll be 70 years old saying there goes another Trump movie coming out.
I would, but if I was him, I would market it. If he actually goes to jail, have a reality show in there and call it Orange is the New Orange.
I mean,
just have him in there being a boss,
Yes.
yelling at people, bringing in gangs. You guys got to piece it up. We got to.
I don't have
a
much,
border.
I don't have much Trump merch, but I do have this one.
Let me see it. President Trump, Matt. Yes.
Okay.
What a shirt.
I mean, that was my Halloween
What a
costume.
shirt.
But this only helps Trump. That's ridiculous. You know, the 80% of Trump supporters said they would support him regardless of a conviction. Only 4% said they wouldn't support him.
4%.
And 16% said they would reconsider their vote. Meaning they're riding with Trump.
Well, I mean,
ain't nobody riding with Biden.
Adam, and think about it. As
But it's
a
not
guy,
a conviction of murder. They think it's a bogus case. So
yeah.
they're saying is, if he's convicted of this bogus case, does that change you? And they're saying, of course not.
Yeah. Adam, think about this. And you for somebody that used to hate him, so now you.
I never said hate.
What'd you say?
I said didn't like
You didn't
what he
like
did.
him? I've
never
guess
used
what?
the word hate.
Allegedly,
I've been doing this podcast since 2020.
You never said you hate Trump.
I've never said hate.
Okay, and I take your word.
And
for it.
every time someone says that, I correct them.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so you didn't like him that much.
He wasn't my
He
guy.
wasn't your guy. Okay,
Yeah.
but you it's clear.
But
to
now
you.
Biden is not my guy.
Obviously, but that's I hate when people say lesser of two evils. But I'm being genuine. You can see though, obviously, with your Adam, with your lens.
Hey, we gotta look for stories, yo.
What they've done to this guy from 2016 to right now, if that's not the biggest election interference threat to democracy that you've ever seen, like, have you ever like? You have to admit this. What they've done to this freaking guy since before he even got in till right now, it's absolutely ridiculous. That's not America. And no wonder why people are getting more behind him because they see it. Everybody's waking up. Everybody, Adam.
Tomas.
I agree with Vinny. I think that's bingo. I mean, people are waking up. Vinny's absolutely right. And people are sick of the political system. And now they're watching corruption as a miniseries, and they're fed up. Vinny's right.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, let's go to the next story here. Kristi Noem, which, what a week for her.
She's
Can you
having a
imagine?
great week.
Yeah, I mean, she's had better weeks than she's had this.
Still beautiful, but
Looks won't help you here.
beautiful.
Looks is
Can't
not
help.
anywhere that's going to help you.
true.
Okay, Kristi Noem calls off Disastrous book tour, canceling hits on Fox News and CNN last minute. So she cancels promoting her book, no going back, literally no going back, amid intensifying scrutiny over controversial remarks, including admitting to euthanizing a puppy and falsely claiming to have met Kim Jong-un. CNN Dana Bash reveals the last-minute cancellation of Rob, can you prepare that clip I sent you from the Newsmax interview? Because that's the worst one. I mean, you're not going to be safe for anywhere else but being on Newsmax, right?
Sure.
You're going to be safe, on CNN. All the other guys are going to target you, but here she's safe. And you have to hear what the guy says to him. But this continues. Dana Bash reveals a last-minute cancellation of Noem's appearance on Inside Politics, stating Governor Noem was scheduled to be on this program. Her team reached out to us weeks ago. She abruptly canceled last night. Fox News' Greg Gutfeld expresses doubt over Noem's excuse of bad weather for her cancellation on Gutfeld, stating, I don't believe it. I hope she'd reconsider, but I'm not going to sit up and beg. Dana Perino, standing in for Noem, delivers a satire type of a critique speech on Gutfeld Show, jokingly admitting to killing another dog named Ghost Rider.
Well, in that case, she killed the right dog.
So watch this here. Watch how eloquently the guy gets to it, and then her answer. Go ahead, Rob.
But going back to what you said a moment ago, maybe not lying to the American people. And I think this is important to talk about because the book's called No Going Back, The Truth on What's Wrong with Politics. And I think part of the problem with politics today is that politicians aren't honest with the American people. So if you asked me a month ago, who's at the top of the list to run with Donald Trump, I would have said your name. If you asked me that same question this morning, I don't even think you're on the list.
Really?
So my question for you, yes, really, and it's because of things that have come out in this book, like your claims that you met Kim Jong-un, and then over the last week, I've been to the DMZ, I've been to the area. What I've said is that... Did you stare down Kim Jong-un? Let me, Governor, 1 second. I will give you an opportunity to respond. I just want to get this out there. So here's the quote from the book. You say that, I remember when I met North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. Governor, that never happened, did it?
What I have said in the book is that when I became aware of the content, that we had it changed. And that's the way that it is. So I should not have put that anecdote in the book. I'm not going to talk about my meetings. But an anecdote indicates that it happened, right? I'm not going to talk about my conversations with world leaders. I've been involved in policy for 30 years. He says the most powerful thing. For 30 years, I've been traveling the world, talking to world leaders. And that is a conversation that I'm not going to have in this book.
Okay, great. Wait for it.
So I've answered that in interviews already. I've been very forthright. And I think that a typical politician wouldn't be that honest. As soon as it became to my attention, I asked for the content to be changed, and it has been.
Governor, I'm not asking you about the details of this alleged meeting. I'm asking if the meeting actually happened. I don't think it did. And I think if it did, you'd be able to confirm for me that, yes, it did. And here's when it happened. It happened, say, at such and such a date or a month, or you don't have to be specific.
I'm not going to talk about my conversations.
You're going to continue to have to answer this question then.
That's it.
I don't think so, because the average American citizen is more worried about the border. They're more worried about what we see in a White House and a president that since January has gone out there and misled the American people.
You're going to have to continue to answer this question, right? Okay. Keep playing, Rob. And then he says...
Nobody pushes him on what he says, that he was imprisoned with Nelson Mandela,
this is
a safe drove an 18-wheeler, that his uncle was eaten by cannibals, that he started the civil rights movement.
You're on safe ground.
There is a hypocrisy in the media today.
You can't play this position. Others are going to be tougher on you than me. I'm a supporter. And she still goes back to this part here.
Go forward and give them a way that
fast forward to when he's about to hit it. Watch this.
Governor, that's a very good point, and I'm not deliberately trying to be adversarial. Donald Trump winning in November is very important.
Yes, it is.
And I think that whoever he chooses to be his running mate, and again, I think at one point you were at the top of that list, but you're going to get questions a lot more difficult than that.
Bingo. I agree. Pause it right there. Yeah. He's right.
Yep.
This is Newsmax. You're in a safe county for her to go on, right? Hey, Rob, can you put the other one with, what's his name, Varney? That one of our guys said she lost it to the point where I had to comment and say there's nothing about her losing. She's just being pushed, and she doesn't want to answer. The one. Is this the one? How long is that, Rob?
53 seconds.
Okay, play. Go for it.
Still think that you are in line to be Trump's vice president?
No, it's up to Donald Trump. He's the only person who will decide this. He's the only person who will decide. And I spoke. Yes, I do speak to him.
May I ask what he said to you about being vice president?
I never tell anybody my personal conversations.
Did
with
the dog story
President
come up
Trump.
in a conversation with
Trump? I talk to President Trump all the time.
About the dog?
About a lot of things. And right now, I tell you what, he is being persecuted.
She's good.
In a political witch hunt in this court case.
Good.
So
she knows
I'm proud of him about how
dodge.
tough he is and how well he is doing.
Did you bring up the dog?
Yes, enough, Stuart.
Did you
this
bring
interview
up the dog
is ridiculous, what you were doing right now. So you need to stop. It is.
Okay.
It is. Let's talk about some real topics that Americans care about.
I'm afraid we're out of time.
Oh, well, of course we are.
We do thank you for being with us. I know I pressed hard, but that's what people are talking about to this day.
Yeah.
Governor Noem, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
But you know, I wish we could have had the camera on just for after this, because you know she was like, "What are you doing?
No,
what are you doing?"
This is not about what are you doing.
Stuart is not a jerk.
No, he's not.
Stuart is a balanced guy.
Neither was the other guy.
She just treated a friendly guy.
But it's going to be awkward when the cameras got off. You know it's going to be awkward.
Well,
I mean, they're in there now. There's no camera.
Are you surprised? I mean, stand up and just give your position and state where you're at. You know, listen. Can you go to Dana White being asked about what happened New Year's Eve? Anyways, you don't need to find it because it'll take you a minute. You know what Dana said? He says, hey, do you feel, what do you have to say about what happened? I said, look, you guys can keep asking these questions. No one here is more embarrassed than me. And not because of you. He says, I have to answer this to my wife and kids. How hard do you think that is? You think I like that? You think they're going to get over it in the next week? How long do you think that's going to take? I'm going to have to deal with this with them. You guys are easy. That's where I lose. And I want to win there. And then you know what happened to media?
They went away.
Boom, gone.
Yeah.
She just making it.
So can I ask you a question,
making it tougher.
Put yourself in her shoes, PBD. The moment this broke, the moment it broke, you shot dogs. You said you know they were biting.
Right.
You lied about the Kim Jong-un. What do you like? What's the first thing? And like on the Dana White approach, what do you say? Ask her, Kristi, to shut them all up right then and there.
Well, this is different. The reason why this is different is because she did the audio recording.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you said it was a mistake, you're not going to do the audio recording for the audible of the book. It's your voice.
So you say I lied? You say, listen, guys, I messed up. I lied. I'm done. Let's get over it.
Well, you have two choices here.
Yeah.
You have two choices here. One, you avoid it at all cost, and your career as a VP is done.
Yes.
Okay. Then the other part is you man up and you say, yeah, you know what? I didn't have face-to-face, but I did go over there, and that never happened. And I want to move on. And it was a fudge mistake that I made. Guess what? Then in that position, you're not going to be VP now, but you still have a political career later on.
Gotcha.
But the way she's taking it, she's hurting her long-term career. This is the reason why Rogan is loved. Okay. So you saw, Cuomo was on a podcast, right, on Tuesday. And Cuomo was training again yesterday. And you know what the clip a lot of people showed yesterday? They showed the clip of Cuomo. And can you pull up that clip, Rob, if you got it?
And mind you, Chris says never apologize. Remember that?
I know.
Chris said never apologize.
I get that. But also, okay, but do you have the one that says... that has that, and then what he says on the podcast, because there's two of them. There's one that's there's one that he's at the top, and another one's at the bottom, or whatever it is. Okay, play this one. First, play what he says with the Don Lemon on the other side. Okay?
Injecting drugs for animals and horse.
And people telling them to. Oh, my God. What person? You talk about, cancel culture and who to shame. Ivermectin, a dewormer. Really?
They are shaming themselves. No one has to shame them. They're shaming themselves.
No, they need to be shamed.
Yeah.
They need to be called out and shamed, brother.
Okay, so now watch the other one over here. Okay.
I'll tell you something else that's going to get you a lot of hits. I am taking a, what do they call it? Like a regular dose, whatever. They're trying to build up of ivermectin. Ivermectin was a boogeyman early on in COVID.
You couldn't talk about it.
That was wrong. We were given bad information about ivermectin. The real question is why? Everyone's going to say Joe Rogan was right. No, Joe Rogan was saying, yeah, he was right. But that's not what matters. What matters is the entire clinical community knew that ivermectin couldn't hurt you. They knew it, Patrick.
Can you pause this?
I know.
So, okay. So you have a delicate situation like this, right? He's in a very delicate place. What kind of a place is he? How many years has he been on left-leaning media? How long?
20 years.
20
years?
That's a lot longer than that.
How long has he been part of the liberal left democratic community?
His whole life.
His father's a 3-term governor that almost ran for president, and some say he would have won. His brother's a 2-term Democratic governor in the state of New York.
Yep.
This is not
who married into the Kennedys.
Yeah. And this is this is one of the most powerful Democratic last names in.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is he in his mind? Because when you're somebody that's been around this much, everybody's giving you advice.
Of course.
And you're getting advice from 50 different places. When you're only on one side, you're typically only getting advice from who? People that are on one side, which is actually easier to process advice.
For sure.
Did you understand what I just said? I don't know if this makes sense or not, because if I get 9 calls, all the 9 calls are saying what? The same thing.
Of course.
But now if you're flirting with being in the middle, the people that you defended that message for ivermectin, warmer, this, and now you're taking it. Your previous side is furious at you.
Of course.
How could you say this? How could you say that? I'm sure there's a lot of people that are not happy with some of the positions he's taken, right? But then if you're staying there and being like, well, I'm not going to give the other side what they want, but I'm not also going to kiss their ass, I'm my own man, you lose sometimes in this situation.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of going through like, yeah. The problem with social media today is the good and the bad. What's the good and the bad? Bro, there's stuff I said 10 years ago on video that's there. There's stuff that right now, whatever you're saying, guess what? It's permanent. Yeah, check the camera. You got to look good because this is going to stay, right? Make sure you're looking good. Yeah. There's stuff that they're going to look that's going to be around forever, okay? My hair used to be bald, meaning not I used to be bald. I used to be buzzed. And I prefer that cut. Until today, I want to go back to it.
Don't do it, PBD.
I know. Nobody wants me to do it, but trust me, I prefer that. Yeah, that's what I prefer. I prefer that.
Yeah.
Then I prefer having hair because it's easier. Boom, boom, I'm out, right?
Yeah.
There was a picture posted. I look at the picture on the bottom right. Rob, click that one. Yeah, that one right there's the funny one. People were joking about, saying that I look like Obama. That was... Stop laughing. It's not funny. But by the way,
PBD.
This is what people don't go to the picture above with me and Tico. This is the story most people don't know about. I come home one day. Tico decides to grab the clipper and he cuts his hair accidentally with a scissor. And then mom's like, babe, what do we do? I'm like, dude, are you freaking kidding me, Tico?
No.
So guess what I said? I said, don't worry about it. Let's together go get a cut. Smart. So I went and got a haircut with him like this. And we went and got the haircut together so he didn't feel bad. And look at this. He is furious that I took that picture with him. He can't be that upset because his daddy looks the same, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be stuff that we've said, the way we look, the way we do, that's not going to go away. That's permanent.
Yeah.
It's the challenge with social media. There is no hiding. If you said it, you said it. That's why when you look at, Joe's position. Remember when Joe apologized and everybody said, you should have never apologized? Should have never apologized. Should have never apologized. You know the whole thing when
with the N-word?
The Planet of the Apes or whatever, some of the stuff that came back from 15 years ago. Yeah. When's the last time that's been brought up?
Yeah, I haven't heard. I almost forgot.
Why though?
Because you apologize and you move on.
It depends on what you're apologizing about.
But
you should apologize for that.
But 10 years ago.
You don't own that.
No.
Like, I'll never apologize. No, my bad, bro.
No, but it's the internal battle that we all go through, guys. Like you went through it one time, right? We're not need to specify what it is, but you went through it one time.
I apologize.
Yeah, and you're like, you know what? You're right. I effed up, and then we talked about it and we moved on. There was a couple times you don't say you don't need to apologize.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just you and I talk about it. And we had a conversation privately. No one publicly needs to hear because that was not something that we need to come out and make that statement. But I think sometimes when you're going through it, dude, this is so freaking heavy for the individual.
Yeah,
because you're going through it, right? Hey, you got this or something. Shit, say, hey, Valuetainment is turning into a clickbait or something. You guys said she lost it. You pull up that post, Rob, that somebody said, you guys, and I started getting...
About Kristi Noem?
Kristi Noem. Yeah. Go to Instagram, and it's like, you guys, Valuetainment lost it. She never lost it, and da-da-da-da-da. So go to the post, keep going down. I hope it's here. You can make... Okay, right there to the right. Okay, so watch this here. Kristi Noem loses it on Fox News over dog question. You need to stop, right? Okay, so then I commented after looking at it, I'm like, I'm not even sure she lost it. I think she handled herself well, but she was pushed, and she didn't want to answer the question. We'll get some of these wrong, but we'll work on improving. Thanks for the feedback.
It's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Guess what? Yeah, you're right. We did, and I'm not going to point out who it was. I'm the CEO. I take full responsibility. It's me. They're guys that work with me. I need to have a conversation with them to go and have the talk with them. But this situation, when you're going through this with Kristi, man, she has to decide. Listen, reality check. You're out. And by the way, Trump supporters, MAGA, those of you who love her, okay? Those of you who thought she did a great job during COVID, you ain't alone. It's millions of people that thought she crushed it. Millions. She did a phenomenal job in South Dakota. She was a leader. She was tough. But this situation here is marketing, optics. This is, if Trump chooses her as a VP, this will not go away. Okay, and for her to have chances of having this level of limelight of presidential VP level, she's going to have to go and go in her backyard and work with angered dogs and work on and do all this to kind of
the Michael Vick approach.
But all I'm saying is, you know, there are certain things that you come out and you do that's marketing disastrous. This is one of them. I think it's done for her.
I'll just give a quick feedback because we're talking about Kristi.
Especially the way she's handling it.
Yeah. But thank God she's beautiful.
I actually think she's handling it pretty well. Well, let's state the facts. Number one, she's having the worst week ever.
Yeah.
For a potential VP.
Yeah.
She went onto these safe media outlets. What was it? Fox Business with Stuart Varney. And then she went on to, what was it, Newsmax? These are safe spaces. Respect to the journalists for actually doing their job. Left or right, hey, you said this, we're going to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Why'd you do this? What he should have said, or he kind of did say, she said, quote unquote, I'm not going to have conversations. I'm not going to reveal what I said with conversations with world leaders. You didn't have the conversation with world leaders. Yeah. You actually never met him. So you have to figure out how to own it, but also spin it and move on. Because she is right. Nobody cares about the Kim Jong-un thing. The important thing is you don't get stuck in the mud and get mud trapped here. But you know how in sports, they say you want to hit your stride at the right place. You want to be ascending versus descending. Like the wild card team that basically was out of the playoffs and all of a sudden they win 10 in a row and make it to the playoffs or hitting their stride. She's the exact opposite of that. Mm-hmm. She was doing well all season. She's just lost 7 out of her last 8 and she's declining. Now, she's neck and neck with Mike Pence for the likelihood of being VP. What's the likelihood that Trump is going to have Mike Pence run it back one more time?
Never.
0. So she's had a horrible week, and she got literally caught. No, not literally, sorry. She got caught in a lie and with her pants down. So, tough week for Kristi Noem.
You know, this is not something to go Google Kristi Noem pants down. He's just saying like, I know I'm
figuratively speaking.
No, you got to be careful with people that English their fifth language. He's just saying figurative speech for the Middle Eastern community watching this. Go ahead, Tom.
You know, I think you look back. America typically is a forgiving country if they think that there's sentiment and authenticity. You know, Bill Clinton had been triumphantly reelected and then looked into the camera, left a press conference with his finger in the air like that and said, I did not have sex with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. And then he stormed out. And then he had his press secretary and all of his proxies denying it. And guess what? You know, Ken Starr said, okay, well, we'll just get a subpoena. We'll take a little blood here and we'll do the DNA on the dress.
We'll take a look at the dress.
And guess what happened? Yeah. He then goes before the American people and says this. Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate, period. In fact, it was wrong, period. I misled people, period, including, even my wife. I deeply regret that. I am having to become quite an expert in the business of asking for forgiveness, period. He said it just like that. You break it all down, you say, guess what? You went from denying it to admitting it. You said it was wrong, even my wife, and I'm having to become an expert here. And you know what? Part of America didn't forget it, but by the end of his term, the economy and everything else was moving in the right direction. And America, you know, part of America kind of forgave that and moved on. But Kristi Noem is yet to walk to the microphone and explain or apologize. And every time she does one of these interviews, including going after the normally sedate, aging business reporter who's usually a very gentle, straightforward guy, Stuart Varney, you go after him?
Stuart.
I mean, she's got to press the pause button and say, I got together.
You're the one that wrote that thumbnail.
Was it you, Tom?
No.
It.
I'm really sorry. Please don't fire me.
But by the way, I think Tom, the whole thing that you read from Bill Clinton, he didn't have to read any of that. He should have just looked into the camera.
By the way, if you guys were at the Derby, the way we handled this betting, we probably would have been betting on Kristi Noem at the Derby.
Oh,
because 40-1 odds, $100 gets you, nice $4,000.
We certainly left behind some assistance for the people of Kentucky.
Look at our friend.
For sure.
Look at our
Ron
friend Tulsi
DeSantis,
up
25-1.
I think Tom.
Tim Scott is still holding steady.
Well, Bill Clinton
Scott
read that in front of the American people, right? Like he looked at the camera and apologized.
Yeah.
He didn't have to read any of that. He should have just looked right in the camera and said, have you guys seen my wife? I had to do it. I had to hook up with her. Monica, I needed her. Hillary.
Can you imagine? Like, save me. I'm in danger.
Can you imagine?
Blink twice.
You know,
please
and you got
help me.
Buford in Alabama with the Budweiser puts the can down and says, "Honey, get in here. Look at this."
Oh my!
For the first time in my life, I think President Clinton has a point.
By the way, have you seen Hillary Clinton when she was younger? She was actually attractive when she was younger. Have you seen it? I know this is kind of wait.
What kind of left-wing public outlet is this? Ridiculous.
No. I'm telling you, she's actually. Listen, look at that. Good for her. She's actually not bad. You know, she looks good when she was young.
Guys, here's her next campaign. Here's her next campaign.
Looks or looks? I don't pick on looks.
Hillary Clinton.
Let's go after positions.
Not that bad. There it is.
What did you say?
I said looks or looks. It's hard to pick on, you know.
You say go after positions.
Go after the
kids watch this show, Tom. What do you mean let's go after positions?
Jerome in the
political positions.
Political positions.
Political,
okay, got it.
That's what you call
earmuffs, guys. All right, so let's freaking Tom, he had to do it. I don't know why you do this sometime when we're having a nice, healthy conversation and you.
Too early for that.
Yeah, seriously, it is. Okay, all right, so let's go to the next story. Next story is TikTok sues U.S. government. Argues ban violates free speech. This is such a funny story.
This will go well.
This is such a funny story. I almost think they're trolling the U.S. government, right? Mm-hmm. For the first time in history, Congress has enacted a law that subjects a single-name speech platform to a permanent nationwide ban. Representatives of TikTok wrote in the lawsuit and bars every American from participating in a unique online community with more than 1 billion people worldwide. They also wrote the ban in an unprecedented violation of the First Amendment. By the way, this is a very famous story written by the boys. So the suit further argues that speech should not be restricted on the grounds of national security and that the federal government must prove such a restriction is legitimated and warranted, but so far has not. It also called on Congress to provide proof that TikTok is a data security risk or that it possesses a threat to spread foreign propaganda. Finally, it argues that the ban violates the constitutional right to due process as provided by the Fifth Amendment, characterizing the ban as the declaration of a crime without a judicial proceeding. Tom, thoughts on this?
Well, you could take TikTok's name off the front of this, and you could put Meta there if they had used this law to go after Instagram during the election.
Right.
This would, word for word, this would be right there. The only thing I disagree with here is there was due process. Our government made a law. Congress voted yes.
Yep.
Senate voted yes. The president signed it. This is the only thing is throwing in there. Oh yeah. Also violates due process. If anything, this was a elongated process. It took months of debate. This wasn't like, it wasn't like we made something up. So I think what we have to look at here is it, on one hand, incredibly ballsy, basically a foreign government to be suing our government because by proxy, that's what's going on, number one. But number two, this bill, and we've talked about it on the podcast, and I've been very clear, this bill is an anti-free speech bill, and there are congressmen that have said that, and that part of what's in here is correct.
I don't disagree, but go ahead, Adam.
Yeah. Well, it's quite simple. They're using our values against us. And, democracy's ugly and it's slow moving, but there's nothing uglier than autocrats and communists. So what they're doing is so
what's your point?
There's the not me approach. You guys stand for free speech, so you guys are limiting free speech. Meanwhile, there's no free speech in China. Name me one American app that is allowed in China. I'll wait. None of it. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, nothing. And even TikTok is limited in China by the CCP via ByteDance. So the hypocrisy is palpable and it's ridiculous. And what's the latest with the divesting? In
very big word. I'm Googling.
Hypocrisy is palpable.
You can feel it. You can taste it, Vinny.
It's very palpable.
Take a sip, buddy.
Thank you.
Taste the rainbow. And meanwhile, who's using TikTok? It's the young people. We've seen Gen Z, what's happening with this woke, indoctrinated generation. We see them on college campuses. We see them turning gay. We understand that their trans is the new trend. We understand that they're anti-American now. How much of that is TikTok to blame? How much of that is universities to blame? How much of that is George Soros and left-wing dark money to blame? I would say the number one thing by far is TikTok. Because what percentage of Gen Z is at universities, especially liberal universities? I don't know, 25%? Maybe that? 90+% are on TikTok.
Yeah.
And they're being indoctrinated to a different way of life. This explains why Osama bin Laden is now a hero and Abraham Lincoln is a villain.
Yeah.
Boom. There it is.
Yeah, that's basically China. That bill is China going, how dare you stop us from spying, brainwashing, and corrupting and dividing your country? How dare you?
How dare you?
We're China. We could fly balloons. Yes. We could walk over the border with all these people. How dare you not let us do all these things to destroy your country? How dare you?
It makes me think about like so many different things.
Yeah.
One, it makes me think about, let us prove to you why freedom of speech doesn't work. Okay? Here's one. We'll sue you. Okay, what are you going to do about it now? Okay, no, seriously. I mean, actually go from the trolling side of, we're going to prove to you why this thing doesn't work. Number two, we're going to prove to you why, we can, divide your own country against you. Okay, we're going to get all the other social media companies on our side. Three, the way they're doing this is brilliant. You got to give them credit. Ballsy, audacity, brilliant. Trying to expose leaks in their own argument in U.S. Great. I love and the fact that they're saying, listen, if you guys force us to sell, we'll leave America. Don't worry about it. We'll even leave America. They're trying to tell you, we don't give a shit. You know why? Tom, here's the thing, though. If they're suing the U.S. government for what they're suing right now, okay, no problem. What can the U.S. government now ask for in discovery? What can the U.S. government now ask for discovery? Is there risk for ByteDance suing U.S. government, knowing that now the U.S. government can come back and ask for a bunch of different things in discovery, and now you're going to be like, oh, shit, we don't want to show that.
Yeah, this is grandstanding. The U.S. government in discovery is going to ask for the kitchen sink.
So meaning...
I didn't even mean to say that because Elon Musk walked in with the kitchen sink. But yeah, they're going to ask for the kitchen sink.
That's when you know you're such a good comedian that sometimes you catch
fall
yourself
back by
like, man, I'm so good, I didn't even know I'm that good. But
let that sink in.
You kill me.
But where I'm going with this is the following. Okay. Do you think the U.S. government is sitting there saying, we are so glad you're suing us? We are so glad you're suing us. Awesome. Sue us. That's what we want, because now we get to ask discovery. Do you think that's what they're thinking about?
On our side?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, because there have been not leaks, but statements made by people who used to work for TikTok that said, hey, we knew we were sending user logs. Logs is the activity by a user. We knew we were sending user logs en masse to China. We knew it. And people have already made those statements. All those people, you think January 6th and the photo identity of everybody was bad? It's so easy to round up all these people that work for TikTok in the United States and have them being called by their government to testify on what happened there. There's only one thing to do there. Yeah, that's what we were doing. I'll tell you the date it happened too. The U.S. government, U.S. Attorney's Office, and this will be Southern District of New York, I imagine, is sitting there smirking, saying, oh, you want to play this game?
There's a part of me that thinks they're glad they got sued.
Yeah.
At least if I'm them, I'm sitting there saying, awesome, you want to sue us? Perfect. Let's show the fact that you're linked to China. This is going to make our job even easier, especially the people that want this thing to be done. Now, the people that I think would be concerned that they're suing is the guys that don't want TikTok to be banned. I don't know if this lawsuit's helped TikTok. I don't know if this lawsuit helps TikTok. This could end up backfiring on TikTok.
Well,
maybe.
This is their Hail Mary effort to basically keep it in the country. So you know what they're doing? You know what word this makes me think of? What was the word of the year, Webster's word of the year, 2022?
Investigation.
Gaslighting. Oh. They're gaslighting us. Come on, guys. Don't you believe in free speech? Don't worry about the spying and the malware and the national security thing. Come on, guys. Because there's a difference between aggressive and passive aggressive. So during the Cold War in the 60s, Russia was aggressive. Straight up. Yo, we will nuclear bomb you straight up. Ready to go to war? America. Like our parents. Tom, you probably remember a little of this. Mm-hmm. Cold War. Okay, thank you. They were literally going to, they had missiles in Cuba. There was an actual threat.
For a moment.
China are passive aggressive. They're not threatening us. They're like, what do you mean? Spyware, balloons, don't worry about it. Sending fentanyl. But no, we're not doing anything.
Buying land by military bases.
Confucius Institutes.
Yeah,
They're not
farmland.
aggressive like Russia was in the Cold War. They're passive-aggressive. But China,
they're dangerous.
We know what you're doing, buddy.
We know.
Okay, so next, Vinny, you got a story about Milwaukee. What happened there?
Yes, sir. So, and Rob has this. Milwaukee Election Commission Executive Director Claire Woodall was fired on Monday in an unexpected shakeup in the most populous county in the battleground, Wisconsin, 6 months before an election day, which is really, really weird. Claire Woodall is leaving just 2 months after a grand jury found her former deputy, Kimberly Zapata, guilty of official misconduct and election fraud charges. Let that sink in, everybody. They're doing fraud in Wisconsin and having her obtain fake absentee ballots. Zapata had claimed she was trying to expose the vulnerabilities in Wisconsin's elections. She was saying, Tom, that she was a whistleblower. She was sentenced last week to probation and a $3,000 fine. So this goes to Peter Berniger. He's like one of the biggest voices right now, Pat, that's involved with this whole case. He's an independent investigative journalist and president of Election Watch Incorporated. He has brought 18 lawsuits against election clerks and offices in the state court. He tweeted this yesterday. Rob, can you go to the tweet? He tweeted, Claire Woodall, Vogue fired. She is, parentheses, was the most corrupt election clerk in Wisconsin. I took her sworn deposition in a lawsuit I filed against her as Milwaukee City election clerk. She printed, and here, listen what he's saying. She printed 64,000 ballots in the back conference room of City Hall, room 501, for the November 3rd, 2020 election. She had city employees and other CTCL fill up some of those on the 4th, 6th, and other floors of City Hall. Then kicked out observers around 10 to 10:30 p.m. on November 3rd. Then brought a large amount of ballots at 1:15 a.m. on November 4th. Okay, now, Tom, if you, can you go back to the letter the email? This is an email that he posted.
Can you zoom in, Rob, with this?
Yeah,
this is November 4th, 2020.
Yes, and this is an email of Claire on election night joking about delivering the margin needed to flip the state to Trump. Yeah, so Tommy, check this out. So this is an exchange her coworker Ryan Chu from Election Group said to Claire, "Damn, Claire, you have a flair for drama, delivering just the margin needed at 3 a.m. I bet those votes counted at midnight and just wanted to keep the world waiting." Now, if you go, Robbie, go to that chart. If you guys compare this timestamp to the email exchange and take a look at the graph timeline, Milwaukee had a 140,000 ballot dump around the same time, which statistically favored Joe Biden and pushed him ahead. That's right around that time. If you see at the bottom, that's 6, and that's going back to 4 o'clock. So just so you guys know the vote totals, Biden was 1,630,866.
Oh, so it's important for you. So hang on one second.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at, Rob, stay on that. So what you're saying is the blue that's climbing with the red is Trump. Trump is ahead.
Yep.
Blue is behind. And boom, at 4 a.m., that hockey stick up is what caused him to win.
It spikes. Yeah, it spikes. And now, where's my second part?
And this chart is from Edison Research. So this... Wow.
Yeah, well, everybody does remember that night. You don't remember that night? Everybody went to sleep. Everybody's like, yo, Trump is going to win. And then, boom, that jumped up. So now the same guy, the Berniger guy, he, and I have, Rob, you have the letters that I sent you? This is... Berniger.
Zoom in a little bit, Rob, if this is the one, Vinny.
So, yes, sir. This is Pete Berniger. This is him claiming this, that this is a letter from... Sheriff Dar Leaf, the Honorable, he's sending this to Scott Perry, the dear congressman. He says, please be advised, Sherry's office has an open investigation for several years related to the election law violations. My office recently reviewed the evidence related to this investigation that requires immediate review from Congress. And this is what he says. I'm attaching documents directly from Dominion voting systems that demonstrate lack of truthfulness and transparency when testifying before Congress in January 2020 following the January 20 hearings. Congress specifically requested information from Dominion regarding the percentage of Chinese parts that are used in the Dominion brand election equipment. Dominion failed to disclose to Congress to the motherboard in the election equipment is not only sourced from China, but it is tested in China. And you could go on to read that. Now, The next one, Rob, is the Georgia one.
Wait, can you zoom in there? What else is in the letter? Zoom in a little bit more.
I can read the whole thing.
The desire to hide this information from some Assistant Director FBI counter has stated China's manufacturing can be profited. So again, additionally, testing and modifications are taking place in China on Dominion brand firmware from HP printer provided by Dominion to local clerks. Dominion further failed to disclose to Congress that Dominion employee Andy Huang, formerly from the Chinese Telecom, which is owned by the Chinese Communist Party, was given authority and access to reset the servers on U.S. election equipment remotely from Canada. As you know, the FCC issues orders to show cause on April 24, 2020 against China's telecom, stating there is a deep concern as to the vulnerability to the exploitation, influence, and control of the Chinese Communist Party, given they are subsidiaries of Chinese state-owned entities.
And the last page says, unfortunately, the national security concern continues. Dominion failed to disclose the use of Huawei phones utilized in the Serbian employees, the same Serbian employees remoting into the U.S. election system during the U.S. elections. Now, the second one, Robbie, is that video from Georgia. Georgia State Elections Board held an important hearing 2 days ago. Fulton County double scanned ballots, and they didn't keep the required ballot images as required by Georgia law. 380,000 ballot images are missing in Fulton County, and this is them at the board. Go ahead, Rob, play that.
Does the investigation confirm that there are missing ballot images?
Yes. Missing. Weird.
Do you know why 380,761 ballot images from Election Day machine count are not available?
What?
We subpoenaed Fulton County for all of their ballot images. We received approximately 518,000 ballot images.
From Election Day?
Those were for the recount.
Those are from the recount, but we have no ballot images for 380,761 ballots from Election Day, correct?
Rob, go to the audio and lower a little bit on that.
What was subpoenaed was the ballot images for the recount because that's what this case was about, not the Election Day.
Does Fulton County know why there are not 380,761 ballot images from Election Day?
She's asking the same question?
Same again to somebody else. To somebody else, PBD.
As with the investigators, we have not been apprised of this allegation. This is the first I'm hearing about it. I have no idea what the basis of that allegation is, and so we would have to. We can't answer that.
We can't answer that. So no accountability.
Would Fulton County agree that every vote should have a ballot image?
So, and PBD,
are you kidding? This is when?
This is 2 days ago. And mind you, guys, and I'm gonna say again, this guy, Peter Barnago, he has 18 lawsuits against them. They're literally claiming that the proof is in the paper ballots, but this is a way longer video, and they're refusing to let anyone see. So the fact that girl from this is Wisconsin, this is Georgia. These are all those key places, and now it's 2024. All this stuff is coming to light. Is it too late? Is anything gonna happen, Tom?
So let me ask if I'm going to summarize, and I want to make sure that I understand what you just said.
Yes.
Georgia state law and the Georgia Election Board was there testing because they're supposed to have all the ballots that come through digital. There's supposed to be an image of all those ballots.
Yes.
Sort of as a, rather than having all the paper ballots sitting around, they have digital images of all votes counted.
Correct.
When they did the recount, they suddenly can't find images for over 300,000 votes.
Yeah.
So they can't validate the recount by going one-to-one image, vote Biden, image, vote Trump, back and forth. They can't do that. And the board is asking multiple questions, and people are actually giving bad answers. No, we don't have it, with no explanation. Is that what I just saw?
That's exactly what you just saw.
So Georgia cannot validate with its own law requirement to have images of all those ballots. They cannot validate the recount.
You saw it right in front of you.
They can only use the digital numbers.
That's what he just said.
Yeah, so he's verified. No, it's unbelievable.
I get it, but what are your thoughts on this, Adam? You hearing this?
I trust whatever Vinny found out. I don't need to fact check it.
Well,
I don't need a counter argument. If you saw it, I believe it.
Can I ask you a question?
I'm actually not even being sarcastic. Like
I
believe you did your research, and
yeah,
I don't know this story. Well, I'm not going to comment on it.
Well,
it's not something I followed, and I'm not going with my gut. If you've done your research, I trust you.
And there is one other point that Vinny, I think is in that.
What?
Fulton County, like Milwaukee, was a late hour catch-up.
Donald Trump said, I'm worried about this late night. By the way, guys, if every dollar bill has a serial number, every vote can have a freaking serial number on it. We need to know, why does it take so many days? All these other countries, Pat, I forgot which one that you said. There was like a 20 million something votes. They did it in one day. This whole late night, we go to sleep. We don't know what's happening. If we let this continue, guys, you're going to keep waking up in the morning and they're going to say, whoops, Joe Biden, the most popular president in the world, it always felt wrong to me. And it felt wrong to a lot of people that I know, that this guy got 81 million votes. He's more popular than Barack Obama. Are you freaking kidding me? And that's why I think it's frustrating. And I mean, this is my question to you, Tom. This is 2024. They're talking about this election. What's going to happen? Is anything going to happen to this? Election's right around the corner.
Is this ongoing? Because if this is the Georgia Election Board, they're going to issue a decree and a finding. This is public. That's
100% public.
That's reporters and citizens sitting in there.
And did you see the girls' paper ballot, please?
Yeah, I saw Trump the supporters. A bunch of people.
There's Trump supporters in there fighting. And by the way, the director Claire Woodall, who was fired, her replacement is Paulina Gutierrez. This is her first time ever running an election
in Milwaukee.
It's like, what do we really? She's never run one, and you're just going, hey, good for her. This is a key a state for the election, and you're just letting somebody that's never done it. Like, would you have, Pat, God forbid you were sick, would you let somebody that's never done a podcast come in here and lead your podcast? No, this is the election. What are we talking about?
Can I respond to one thing?
Yeah.
I'm going to make a prediction. You ready?
Yeah.
The whole most popular president of all time, I can't believe it, 81 million votes.
Yeah.
Okay. Trump got 76 million votes.
Yeah.
Also a massive number.
Yeah.
Right, why was the vote count so high? Why was it? It's crazy. Maybe it had something to do with the level of interest of voters. So this election cycle, my prediction, neither of them are going to even get 70 million. What?
Well, if there's a third
party. They
went
from 80 to 70. How could you say that? Because what they do since 2000, they track voter enthusiasm and level of interest. Do you know prior to 2020, what election had the most level of interest by the American public?
The most?
2008, Barack Obama. People were like, oh my God, first black president. So, I mean, I can show you the stats.
No, I believe it. And they were duped.
2024,
yeah.
2020, I think it was 77% level of it. Here it is right here. Meaning there's a 13% predicted drop-off of interest, meaning people don't even want to go to the polls. So,
well, that's a problem.
In 2000, exactly, I think Americans 100% should vote. But in 2008, the American public was so interested in the Obama thing.
What does this have to do with what he's saying?
Specifically, he said he didn't believe that Biden got 80 million votes. Yeah. How is he more popular than Barack Obama?
These are different talk.
I'm specifically talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the Georgia thing.
I got you, but these are two different topics.
Voter interest has a lot to do with voter turnout.
Yeah,
sure.
And that's why midterm elections, people don't vote.
Yeah.
Because they're like, dude, I don't give a shit about midterm.
What does that have to do with what he's talking about?
It has zero to do with his Georgia predictions.
Milwaukee thing.
But it has everything to do with his comment about 80 million votes for the Biden president.
It's not a prediction. What he's saying is that this lady's asking the question, where's the 380,000 images?
And they say, we don't know.
And that lady is can you pull up who that lady was? Her name.
Janice, I think Janice something, Robbie?
Go Google her name. I actually want to know who appointed that judge, okay? Go back at the beginning. You can Janice Johnston.
Board member, state election board. And this is Georgia, Fulton County,
Janice
Robbie.
Johnston. Okay, Janice Johnston. And what county is it? What county is it?
Fulton County.
Okay, that's good. Go to it.
Georgia State Election Board.
Okay, let's see who this lady is. Georgia, I want to know her. I'm interested in knowing who she is. What happens if you just type in Janice Johnston? What comes up? Don't even type anything else. So IMDb, she's not an actress, that's for sure. Type in judge. Maybe type in judge.
I saw the bio on the prior page. Funny school.
Did you?
Yeah.
Judge.
I don't think necessarily. Is she a judge of PBD?
From left, election judge Janice checks in the first time.
No,
voter.
This is Missouri, though.
So I want to know where she's from. So this is what this means to me. At least this is how I process it. The same people that you couldn't talk about ivermectin or you couldn't talk about, anything else. Okay, so who appointed her? March 2nd, 2022, appointed by who? But who gave the job? Can you see who appointed her? Republican, boom. That's in the county.
She was appointed in 22.
I know, but who? That's 22 is under Biden. Who? Yeah. So it's under Biden that she's getting the job. So, when you see stuff like this, that they're like, you just have to say, do you believe the election was stolen? No. Do you believe the election? He believes the election was stolen, so conversation all over, right? Like you couldn't even say it, right? You couldn't even say that 100%. You believe that. Okay.
You get banned.
Just so you know, no one's saying this. Vinny is not saying this, that's what happened with this case. He's speculating. He's asking questions based on what the market is sharing with us in different counties, right?
Yep.
Okay, fine. But here's the question. If now we know that this is what happened, and they try to repeat this again, do not be surprised why a movie called Civil War just came out a month ago. I'm just telling you. Because the level of rage and anger for certain people, I'm talking to a guy and he says, what's the big deal, man? We're just moving on with COVID. I mean, what's the big deal? It's just, we got to move on. I mean, it's not a story anymore. I said, no. I said, that's not how life works. I said, do you know the vaccine, how many marriages it divided? How many families it divided between siblings? Do you know how many jobs at a company people were divided, employer against employee? I said, do you know churches were divided? They couldn't go to church. Do you realize a church couldn't have their congregation go to pray to God in certain places in California? Do you realize how many people this thing destroyed? Do you realize how many people who love their country were serving in the military, they're 5 years away from retirement, decided to get out because they did not want to take the vaccine? Do you realize how emotional this is to so many different people? This isn't just let's move on. I'm not part of that camp.
Accountability, you're the guy.
I'm not part of accountability. Yep. Same with the election. If they go deeper and they find more stuff like this, the emails, if there's more discovery and they find stuff. Two things for me, like, say Trump wins the election, okay? What are some things he's going to do? Okay, I'm going to fix the border. Fine. All right, so you fix the borders. What kind of a fix is it? Temporary or permanent?
If he's going to be serious?
No,
it's going to be a temporary fix till they get the real job.
What's a permanent fix?
A permanent fix is the wall, like the Egypt thing that we were talking about.
You build the wall. Build the wall. Can somebody else still come down and change it to make it a temporary fix? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, I'm going to deport the people that we have here. Is that a permanent fix or a temporary fix?
If you kick them all out?
Kick all of them out.
Permanent.
That's a temporary fix because somebody in 8 years can come back and open it up again, have 15 million people.
The president changes.
Yeah, the president changes. Okay, so fixing the economy, is that a permanent thing or a temporary thing?
Temporary.
It's a temporary thing. Okay, putting sanctions on China and Mexico because China's selling cars from Mexico. Temporary thing. What is permanent is a few different things. One, how are we going to handle COVID next time around?
Because
pandemic and force and vaccine, how is that going to be done?
Mm-hmm.
Number two, what is going to happen with elections moving forward that we can trust that games like this can't happen? And it's permanent, not temporary. I am interested in some permanent, positive changes that gamification cannot reappear. I think if they investigate this while he's in and they find out some stuff and he brings some new bosses in and they go deep into it and they find some stuff, they got 4 years to do it. I'd like to see some permanent changes being made that we can finally sit there and say, I don't need to worry about what's going to happen with the election in 2028 or 32 or 36 or 40 or any of this stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in. So I'm glad they're doing this investigation. I hope they go a little bit deeper so we can learn more.
And just because, and Tom, we talked about this before this, about the frustration and the anger that I'm having. If you guys really break it down, it's election interfering, AKA cheating, from the beginning. And I get it, guys, with, there's been, in the past, Tom, Gore and Bush, there was always problems, right? People were questioning the election and all that stuff, correct?
Yep, it goes back to the dawn of time and the stories validated of how Mayor Daley manipulated Chicago. Election cheating thinking has been as American as apple pie.
Got you.
And suddenly we're supposed to believe nothing is going on and go away. And suddenly Georgia is having, remember, Pat was right. You couldn't say anything to the media. You would be shouted down. How dare you say it during COVID, right?
Yes.
Well, the same thing was happening when you're talking about certain states and asking to have in questions about election integrity. Can you prove it? Can you show me? And now Georgia's having an Ivermectin moment where they're coming back saying, well, wait a minute here. If we're going to have a recount, why can't we count?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to know what the vote count is without the 381. I want to know what the vote supposedly is with the 381.
Yep.
These numbers should be available for public inspection. And I feel like we're having this Ivermectin and COVID moment in Georgia. Well, okay, you can ask questions now in public and not be shouted down.
Yeah.
In the middle of inquiry. You have every right to be upset. And I think the American people have every right to be upset.
Vinny,
and to say, wait a minute.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with. We're not just saying it was just this time, but if you think about it, from 2016, this is cheating. Hillary Clinton and the DNC got caught, slap on the wrist. They got fined, what, $8,000 or $10,000 for starting the Russian fake collusion to try to get the sitting president out. That's cheating, number one.
Steele dossier.
The Steele dossier. Number two, the FBI going to Twitter with God knows how many agents and trying to suppress stories for one side of the party. That's cheating. 51 intelligence agents signing off saying that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. That's cheating from the FBI. And then now we keep hearing all this stuff with ballots this and ballots that. And I hate when people like Hillary Clinton, all these people right now are like, how dare you talk about the election? How dare you talk about machines? There's a montage that I'll send to Rob later. The whole Democratic Party, including Hillary Clinton, was like, we can't trust any machine, any digital electronic machines. And I just saw a documentary called Kill Switch. One of the first things that they say in the documentary is every single computer can be hacked, period. Done deal. They put in backdoors. They put in stuff like that. So the illusion of, no, we can't. It's only one side. When it's is this it? Oh, Pat, could we just play the beginning of this? Play this. This is Hillary back in the day.
Just stop using touchscreen computer voting because it's so vulnerable.
Right.
We need to look at all the voting machines. Every Secretary of State needs to be, assisted in making sure that they are not being hacked and attacked.
I continue to think that our voting machines are too vulnerable.
But researchers have repeatedly demonstrated that ballot recording machines and other voting systems are susceptible to tampering.
Even hackers with limited prior knowledge, tools, and resources are able to breach voting machines in a matter of minutes.
In 2018, electronic voting machines in Georgia and Texas deleted votes for certain candidates or switched votes from one candidate to another.
The biggest seller of voting machines is doing something that violates Cybersecurity 101, directing that you install remote access software, which would make a machine like that, a magnet for fraudsters and hackers.
These voting machines can be hacked quite easily.
You could easily hack into them. It makes it seem like all these states are...
The list goes on and on, but it's funny, but it infuriates me that one day they were doing this, and then when it came to 2020, they were like, how dare you say it? So I'm just saying, I hope the people are awake. I hope you guys are paying attention.
Let's see what happens. Gang, Rob, we may have another podcast tomorrow. Stay tuned. And maybe a podcast that's a niche podcast about a country right now that's going through some challenges, but we'll let you know if it's going to go live or not. And then everybody else, if we don't, have a great weekend. We'll do this again next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.